Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA front office show. We've got a trade to break down today, a couple other little things as well to dive into. Make sure you are subscribed right here to the NBA front office YouTube channel. We are pushing for 10,000 subscribers. You've listened to the podcast version of this. We'll go over to YouTube. Make sure you subscribe there and subscribe to the podcast version as well if you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you are finding us there. Keith, how are you doing, man? We got a trade to talk about, and it involves your team.
Yeah, and it happened literally as I was walking into Shang-Chi today, which was phenomenal. No spoilers here from this guy, but just really, really good. And I like all the Marvel stuff, but this one was excellent. So go make time to go see it if you're a Marvel fan,
All right.
or if you're not even a Marvel fan but a martial arts fan. That one was really good. But yeah, trade broke, so I had to kind of sit there and turn my brain off of basketball to make sure I enjoyed the movie plenty while we were there. But yeah, it's Boston Celtics and Memphis Grizzlies, who have hooked up for a lot of trades over the past few years, do it again. And this time it's Juancho Hernan Gomez headed to Boston in exchange for Chris Dunn and Carson Edwards. So Dunn and Hernan Gomez barely swung by there to Boston and Memphis
Right.
and said hello. And we heard Hernan Gomez was not going to report to the Grizzlies, and now he's headed off to the Celtics, and then Dunn and Edwards headed to Memphis along with a second round pick. So Boston threw in a second round. Our Celtics take on a little bit of money in this trade, but I think probably get quite clearly the best player of the three players
Now, I
involved.
saw it was a second round pick swap, so it's not even a full second rounder. At least that was the early reporting on it. I don't know if maybe that has changed since then, but I saw a second round pick swap on it. But regardless, it's a minor asset going into this
Yeah,
deal.
yep.
And
Yeah, it's not it's like a kind of sort of a second round pick. It's not even one Boston really kind of actually
okay.
owns, so it's a little weird the way that one works out. The Celtics had a couple future seconds like that, and for this guy, it makes me happy that that's now removed from the bookkeeping, that I have to pay attention to that second rounder.
So,
So I'll take it.
so at this point, we can just kind of add this into the Eric Bledsoe trade for the Grizzlies tally. It feels like they've just flipped and flipped and flipped so many different pieces of that trade, but now they do wind up with Carson Edwards and Chris Dunn. But I guess let's start there. What are the Grizzlies going to do? They keep adding players. they waive Rajon Rondo, and then you do a 2-for-1
Yeah.
trade to bring in more pieces, and you still have to wind up cutting players at the end.
Yep.
So I don't I don't understand that part of it.
Yeah, Memphis. So just to give an overall picture right now, after all their maneuvering, they are back up to 19
Oh,
players on fully guaranteed or standard contracts. One of those is a summer contract.
mm,
They have one player on a two-way. And my guess is the guy who's on the summer contract, East Pons, who was with them in summer league. He's a rookie, undrafted rookie out of Tennessee. My guess is he'll eventually be converted to the other two-way spot for Memphis, but that leaves them with still three fully guaranteed contracts that they're going to have to waive here. So that's going to be interesting to see which direction they go. My guess is if I was Chris Dunn and Carson Edwards, I don't know that I'd be looking for real estate in the Memphis area.
ooh, Keith, we have some breaking news.
Breaking news! I know, I just
Another
saw it.
trade.
Yeah,
DeAndre Jordan, according to Adrian Wojnarowski. We're gonna break this. We'll break this one down right after we finish breaking down the Celtics
yep,
Grizzlies trade. All right. So, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, Brooklyn, the Nets are trading DeAndre Jordan for a future second round pick. Oh no, four future second round picks. So DeAndre Jordan and four future seconds, uh, and $5.78 million to Detroit for Jalil Okafor and Siku Doumbouya. Pistons plan to work on a
yep.
buyout for DeAndre Jordan. So we'll put a pin in that one and we'll break that one down in just a minute. But let's jump over the Celtics side, getting Juancho Hernan Gomez. What was your takeaway there? I mean, stretch big. I think he fits a need for the Celtics, right?
Yeah, he does a little bit. They're now kind of, I think, balanced fairly well. They've got a lot of different ways they can go. Hernan Gomez probably in the way Boston plays, he'll be more of a 4 than ever a 3, which is fine. They don't really need anybody else to play the 3. They have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Aaron Nesmith, Romeo Langford, who can all do that. Marcus Smart, of course, can as well if they need to. This basically brings them to 15 standard contracts also on the roster, so they can kind of stick with that if they want to. Now Jabari Parker could stay and have his contract become fully guaranteed. They allowed his deal to become guaranteed for a minimal amount, only $100K the other day, which signaled to me that they weren't necessarily going to move on from him. Celtics took on a little bit of money in this trade. They're about 6.8 million now, above the luxury tax. But I think what this mostly does for Boston is it gives them, with Hernan Gomez, one tradable salary of $7 million versus it's almost 2 tradable salaries of $7 million in Dunn and Edwards, and that's important. And now Boston is in a position where they continue to kind of stack up these mid-range contracts that they could eventually move in a trade, whether it be now or in the next offseason. Hernan Gomez non-guaranteed contract for next year, about 7.5 million. But again, if you need 7.5 million in a trade, you just guarantee it and move him along, and that's a fair number for him for what he is as a player. So really, this is a no-risk move for Boston. All Hernan Gomez can do is help, either on the court or via trade matching.
And this is so this gives you a contract that's movable. I think he's a guy that can indeed help them on the court, like you said. This isn't, to me, from the Celtics perspective, this is a single, right? And we've talked about this.
Yep.
It's not a home run, but it's a single. And you hit enough singles, they really start to add up. So I like this move for the Celtics. It's a little bit more of a head scratcher from the Grizzlies perspective. Like, you got Chris Dunn, you got Carson
I guess
Edwards.
They get a second round pick out of nothing.
Yeah. So you get that, but okay. But I think it was a good piece of work here by the Celtics. Let's get into this new trade that just broke, and so we're going to kind of break this one down on the fly, which is always fun. So DeAndre Jordan, who we heard was going to get bought out by the Brooklyn Nets, is now instead going to get bought out by the Detroit Pistons. But they're giving up Jahlil Okafor, which, I mean, he doesn't have a ton of value around the league, but Doumbouya, I mean, this is a guy that I thought would have at least a little bit of value. Let's try to dive into this from the Pistons perspective. What's the benefit of going this route? You can clear some salary, but I feel like you're giving up on Sekou Doumbouya, who, I mean, we saw played okay in Summer League this year.
Yeah, I don't know. Now, Doumbouya was probably on the outside of the rotation looking in after all of their additions in the past couple of years, because you've got still have Jeremy Grant, you have Sadiq Bey, Cade Cunningham. I know some people think of him as more of a guard, but I think of him as a big wing who will have the ball in his hands a lot. Still have Josh Jackson. They re-signed Hamidou Diallo. And then on the big line, you've got obviously Grant can play the 4 and does play quite a bit. You've got Kelly Olynyk, Isaiah Stewart, Trey Lyles now. So my guess is this was just, I'm looking at and saying Sekou Doumbouya is not really going to be a part of things here. And again, these teams continue to value second round picks, and getting 4 of them in a trade is pretty big. So it says that they are Detroit is getting, what is it? The Nets second rounders in 2022 and 2027, a 2024 Wizards second rounder, and a 2025 Warriors second rounder. So those could all have some value. That 2022 Nets one is not going to. That's going to be pretty deep into the second round because they should be very, very good. But 2027, who the heck knows what they'll be by then? And then 2024 Wizards, Bradley Beal leaves. They could be pretty bad. And then 2025 Warriors, that's about when they're probably going to be on their, for real downswing, I guess we can call it. So those are probably some pretty valuable savings, or seconds rather. I'm reading another tweet as I'm trying to talk, which is never a good thing. So. And then they're just going to buy out DeAndre Jordan, that $5.78 million. That's the max the Nets could. That much of Jordan's salary, and then they'll figure out a buyout, and off he'll go. And my guess is probably head off to the Lakers, like we've been hearing for the last couple
And
weeks.
Lakers fans go mild over DeAndre Jordan potentially arriving in Los Angeles. We'll see exactly what happens there. But yeah, I guess the second rounders really are the value there for the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
For the Nets,
Yeah.
the Nets you get, I like the, I mean, the Nets, you get the value of not having to buy him out. You don't have that dead money now
Yep.
sitting on your books.
Saves 47 million in
Oof,
salary and tax for the Nets
unbelievable.
because they're so far above, so they're so deep into the upper penalties now. So 47 million between salary and
So
tax the Nets are
So
saving.
that right there, right? Forget about the players involved, about Dumboya, right? That right there is
Yep.
worth the 4 second rounders that you gave up. And if you're the Nets, who
Yep.
cares about 4 second rounders? As soon as you have an open roster
Yeah, they
spot,
don't.
you've got veterans lining up to take the minimum from you. So it doesn't matter.
Yep. Yeah, my guess is Okafor will get waived
Hmm.
here in this, so that'll probably bring the Nets about back to even. I don't know what happens now. I'm guessing Dumboya takes a spot at least initially. Probably Alize Johnson gets waived. Here is my guess, and the Nets move along, and then they'll figure out a way to manufacture another roster spot if they need to come buyout season, trade deadline, whatever it is.
So I mean, this is a good move for the Brooklyn Nets, a really good move. I think that
Yeah.
this helps them out considerably, and we'll see where they go from here. And now DeAndre Jordan, like you said, will probably hit the market, and we'll see exactly where he lines up. You did have a little bit of news. You had another player that signed on to a two-way contract, I believe. Not nearly as exciting as two
No,
trades,
gotta
including
get
one that
blown
as we
off
started
the
recording breaks. But still, just for completion here.
Yeah, Vit Krejci, who was a second round pick in 2020, the Wizards drafted him and then traded him to the Thunder. He's signing on with the Thunder of a standard contract
Mhm.
for Krejci. Um, I I don't know. We're gonna find out real quick what this kid is. He's if nothing else, he's extremely young. So we'll see. He's only 21, just turned 21 towards the end of June. He's from out of the Czech Republic. He's been playing in Spain for a couple years now. Did not play much. He was actually on a team in Spain this year, barely played, and then last year he got into 37 games, but barely played nine minutes a game. Didn't do a whole heck of a lot. He's done a little bit more on the international level, or I guess on the national team level for the Czech Republic. In the Eurobasket qualifiers in 2020, he averaged 5.5 points per game there. But he's kind of a wing with some size. He's about 6'8" or so. Can really handle the ball and pass a little. Is the scouting report on him. So we'll see. I mean, for the Thunder, this is hey, let's just see what it
Mhm.
looks like. We'll find out the details on this contract. My guess is pretty heavily non-guaranteed. But the Thunder, even before doing this signing, this is why they can afford to do these things. They are still $22.3 million under the salary floor. So so you can just
There's
you
so
could give
much
this
room.
kid almost yeah, you could just give this kid the rest of your MLE and just, you'd say thanks, man, and off you go. There and that's kind of what they did. If I don't know how many people even know, but they signed Gabriel Deck, a guy out of Argentina, at the end of last year, just to help meet the salary floor. They gave him a little over
Mhm.
3 million. He's on a non-guarantee, so my guess is this is going to have pretty significant non-guaranteed money, and we'll see if he even makes the team out of
And
camp.
just to be clear and everything, in terms of the salary floor with the Oklahoma City Thunder being 22 million below the floor, that doesn't mean they get to just save that money if they stay below the floor. They
Nope.
have to rise up to that floor. So let's say they stay the way they are for the entire rest of the season and they are below that salary floor. What will happen is that $22 million that they're below the floor will get divvied up between all the players that are currently on the team. They're spending that money no matter what. So that means you should expect
Yep.
other moves to come where they're going to absorb some salary and probably get, you guessed it, more draft picks in return. So I'd imagine that's going to
And they're
happen.
still sitting on a couple pretty good TPEs,
Mhm.
12.8 million for Trevor Ariza and 9.6 million for George Hill, that they'll have all the way up to the trade deadline. So they're just about the Ariza one expires slightly before the trade deadline, but
We
they're my guess is they'll use those before they go to waste.
We do have one little other bit of news here. See, Keith, we started a show thinking we were only really talking about a Celtics Grizzlies trade, and now
I
here
love
we
it.
are. LaMarcus Aldridge, according to Casey Johnson of NBC Sports Chicago, is also considering the Chicago Bulls. So
Interesting. All right.
don't just assume he's a Brooklyn Net just yet, but the Bulls have been on Aldridge's radar, according to Casey Johnson. What do you think about that as a potential landing spot for LaMarcus Aldridge?
I love
Yeah.
it if the Bulls can get him. Yeah, huge for them because their only backup big of note right now is Tony Bradley, who had a nice
Mhm.
year last year for Philly, backing up Joel Embiid. He can defend a little, rebound a little. He's not much of an offensive player, but yeah, put Aldridge out there behind Vucevic. That's pretty good. My guess is that the lure of playing for the Nets is going to win out here, and that's where he'll end up. But here's the little bit of the challenge for the Nets right now is we
Mhm.
assumed LaMarcus Aldridge would take the Alize Johnson spot. Now, if you want to keep Dumboya, and I don't know that he's just a turn around and wave him kind of
Yeah.
guy. The Nets are running out of roster spots a little bit here, and that makes it a little tougher after doing this trade. So maybe that's what Aldridge is maybe kind of looking at and saying, "Hey, I'm going to bounce over to a team where I know I'm going to get there." The Bulls still have two standard roster spots open as well as a two-way spot. So, yeah, and you could I mean, your defense would be absolutely horrible, but you could play him next to Vucevic on occasion if you really wanted to go Twin Towers double big lineup, because both of them can step out and shoot the ball. So you could do some stuff there if you needed offense. It'd have to be against the right kind of teams, but I like that spot. I mean, I kind of like it just for balance of the league,
Right.
if he'd go to Chicago. But we'll see. I'd also like it as someone who thinks Nick Claxton should be playing quite a bit for the Nets as well. So
Well, and
yeah,
from Chicago's perspective, we know they're all in to win this season. It's all about making the playoffs this year, showing Zach LaVine they can win. So it would make a lot of sense to go and get a veteran guy like LaMarcus Aldridge, who you know can come in and really help you out, assuming he's 100% healthy, which is something we talked about yesterday. But if he can come in and give you some minutes behind Vucevic, that's a real weapon, right? That's a guy who can come in and finish out a game, right? Help you win a game down the stretch because he's going to make veteran plays. And I like the fact that he can shoot too, because it means your offense doesn't have
yeah,
to completely change when Vucevic is off the
hmm
floor. You can still kind of run some of the same sets because LaMarcus Aldridge, maybe he's not quite as good of a shooter as Vucevic, but he still has that skill set where he can step outside and shoot. So I like that just for continuity in the Bulls offense as well. So I'm for it. I would rather,
agreed.
and it's not just because everybody's saying it's going to be Lakers versus Nets in the finals, just for kind of balance in the NBA. In addition to, I think there's going to be more minutes for LaMarcus Aldridge in Chicago. So I would like to see that one go down.
And they were a team that was always rumored to sign him a couple different
Mhm.
times when he was a free agent. That was one of the things that was talked about quite a bit. So yeah. All right, two more
Oh,
things just because the news keeps coming. This is just a minor add-on. Whoa, just tweeting the Lakers are serious contenders to sign DeAndre Jordan, which is let's read between the lines there.
that means he's going to the
DeAndre
Lakers.
Jordan said it to the Lakers. Um, then James Edwards tweeted this one, and then I had to look to make sure it's accurate, and it's spot on accurate. Killian Hayes, drafted with a first round pick in 2020, is the longest tenured Detroit Piston.
Wow. Oh, talk about turnover.
Unbelievable. Demboya was the only player left from when Troy Weaver took over, and now there's none.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Well,
Well,
it's
we
a
we
new
could probably
day.
wrap on that
I
vine,
I
but
think so. I think we certainly can. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. This is what happens when we start a show. We intend to talk about one thing, and next thing you know, like five other things get thrown at us. But that's the
yep.
kind of content you get when you subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office Show. Don't forget to turn on those notifications as well, and make sure you do like this video. Till next time, everybody, stay safe and see ya.